Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Ngozi. If you are new to the channel, then you are welcome. Don't forget to subscribe, click on the little notification bell so you never miss an upload. And it sort of encourages me to know that people are interested in the topics that I'm talking about and it helps my channel grow and have more of a reach. For those of you who are already members of the channel, welcome back and thanks for tuning in. I haven't been on in a while since my holiday to Cyprus. I uploaded a vlog, so check the last video on the channel. It was a vlog of my family trip to Cyprus for the summer holiday. So I have actually been busy, really busy. It's been a transitional year for me since September last year up till now. My eldest daughter has gone into university, my son's gone to college, and my youngest has gone into secondary school. And I want to talk about my youngest. While all my children have experienced bullying in some form, at their various schools, I've dealt with it, I've handled it, and I've become a little bit experienced in how to handle those situations and to make sure that I secure the matter as soon as it kicks off, nip it in the bud, because your children are delicate, your children they're precious, they're your mini you, and you aren't there to defend them, but in so many ways you can show up for them and protect their mental health, protect their future personalities. You don't want them to fold and bend into the world that is ahead. You want them to come into the world with their head held high and also understand, learning from you, what it is to defend someone or to stand up for themselves. So my youngest, while my other children have had encounters, I just want to talk about the current situation because it's still raw and I'm still feeling some kind of way about it. She started secondary school in September, so she's been in for a few terms, and it's been a new experience for her and for us because she's had an amazing time and has been in the same school and didn't swap schools as the same children in her class. So we believed that she had had a rapport. So this was a bit of a surprise for us because at the time she now moved into secondary school, all of a sudden, demonic sort of activity started in some of the teenage boys, as they start developing. And this is true. I know I use the word demonic, but it's just the way it feels. It's like some sort of evil because they were there before, but things have changed. And with puberty kicking in and adolescent years triggering them, the behavior has changed. And this case of bullying isn't from one girl to another. This case of bullying is from boys who are sort of even taller than her by, a head and a shoulder, really coming for my little girl, my little beautiful angel. So with a lot of name calling and a lot of, physical, attacks, I went to school on the matter. Here are the first things you need to do when your child is being bullied at school. The first thing is, as your child walks through the door, and I know some of you work and you're really busy, as the rest of us are, but you tend not to notice your child's countenance. And some of the time, they're quite resilient for the most part, but you can't actually see that something's going on. They walk through the door, you say, "You're right, how is everything?" They say, "Fine." They take the bag, they go upstairs, and you carry on with your life. You've got to pay attention, you've got to look into their face, you've got to ask questions. Because sometimes your children feel that they might be a nuisance, or maybe it's something they just have to deal with, or sometimes they think it's okay and think, they can handle this, but they can't. You need to know everything that happens with them on a daily basis. In her case, she started writing things in her diary, and it was heartbreaking. I'm not going to share that here, absolutely not. But, the contents of her diary started to change, and it took a dark turn. Now, we spoke to her, we asked her questions, she said what was happening, what the boys were saying to her in class. It wasn't just her. And this particular boy in question already has a situation in the classes that he attends where the teachers are always putting him in detention. So he is known, he's quite notorious, he is known. And it makes me sick and tired of these schools who know a child is a certain way and haven't found a way to curb it. But I'll tell you why, because here's how it's done. The first thing you need to do, as I say, is question your child, find out what's going on, and let them detail to you everything that happened. And you will be the one to judge if this is appropriate behavior that they should tolerate or not. In her case, it was not. She was crying. There was a clip of her actually crying into the early hours of the morning. with regards to what they were saying to her and how they were tearing her down. Now, one of the things that can happen to your child when they are bullied is that if they are bright, if they have a floral personality, and they catch the sunshine when they walk in a room, it starts to change. And if you don't deal with it, then they also start to fall behind in their studies. And she is a grade A student. She's very smart. So these are some of the things you want to protect. And don't just think you can say to your child, you'll be all right, don't worry about it, they're just being silly. No, you got to fight for your child, you got to protect them. Now, she expressed some of the things that were happening. And the first thing to do when this happens, as I've done for all my children, is you write a formal letter. Make no mistake about it. Don't make a phone call to the school. Don't talk to the teacher. A formal letter for the attention of, to whom it may concern, da 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 da. And then you write. You copy everyone in authority in. Don't make a mistake and just contact one person. You copy in the board, you copy in the safeguarding department, and then you copy in the head of school, the deputy head, and then the teacher. And then you say what's going on. And one of the real good ways to deal with the situation as well is to have it documented, dates, times, what was said, hyphenated. Make sure you put down everything that was said. In some way, your letter will come across like something an attorney would put in writing. It starts to have a tone that makes the recipient know that this parent isn't kidding around. So I had done this. The next thing you do in the letter detailing what had happened is that you say, please respond to us in writing. And that makes them, understand that you're holding them accountable. They can't get away. Should you want to take it further, involve the law, then they will realize that they cannot sort of slack in their duties to investigate what is going on. So you say to them that they need to respond to you in writing. And should they choose to make a phone call to you instead, then they would agree to the term, listen, that all calls to us are being recorded. So it's entirely up to them. They want to respond in writing, they want to respond by phone call, but it will be recorded. And if they, call you, then they will hear that blast that goes, this call is being recorded. Okay? Once you do that and it's gone to a number of people, copied, they tend to sit up, and whoever needs to deal with it becomes very alert. And those who are higher than the individual in question will also be checking in and seeing the responses, the replies, and the emails that's going back and forth. They're going to see what's going on, and they will be checking in. So some sort of supervisory system is already in place. And then you check in with your child again and again and again. And with my child, that's what happened. They started contacting me and, beep, the phone goes and it's being recorded. At the end of the call, I send all recording clips back to them. Okay? So we know that it wasn't tampered with, it wasn't edited. Why am I doing this? It makes them understand that you are actually at 100% livid, and you are prepared to take the case further if something isn't done about it. This is what I did with my daughter. And within about 2 weeks, one of the boys were relocated to a different form, and the other one was still in the same class with her. And one of the things that happened was the deputy head had responded to me and said they will make sure that they separate them in the class, you understand, or move them around if they could. But this one was left with her. And I said, okay, thanks. And the next thing you know, as she returns back to school, that very, in the new year, they put her in a group work and this boy comes for her in such a bad way that he takes a compass, the sharp point, stabs her right on the shoulder. After calling her insulting words, the other person in the group sort of tried to get the other person in the group to call her names and things like that. So right off the back of that email, again, you copy and you send back to the entire group and say, this is what's happening. This is the object that was used. And following this next step, I went to the police station and I made a formal complaint. That's the next step. And I informed them that I have informed the authorities, just so that any future physical attacks, physical assaults will be documented. And this is how you get the perpetrator, the little boy, whoever that is, who's not a little boy, to now have his name down on some kind of register. I'm not messing about. So I went to the police station, and what you will find is that they will say, well, it's a matter to deal with the school, but you have to insist that you just want to make the report so that it's on file. We know they're not going to do anything about it, but it's on file. So tomorrow when someone brings out a knife and hurts your child, the first documented issue would have been with the police. And you will get a reference number, not a crime number, a reference number. And so I told the school that. And the head of school, the deputy head of school, obviously had been calling in the parents of the boy and having these conversations with the child and the parent to say, look, now the parent's gone to the police station. So this is how you get those silly parents who have decided because your child is a bully, you've got nothing to worry about. Now you will. You come back from work, you go do whatever you need to do. You couldn't care less about how your child is impacting the world that we're living in. So this is how you get their attention. And every time they're having to be called into school for one meeting or the other, that's how you do it. Next stop after that physical attack, he was suspended for a few days. And then when he came back, I asked my child, has he spoken to you? He said, no, just walked past her. You understand? The next thing we did was get our child to start taking kickboxing classes and self-defense. Here's one thing you need to tell your children. While she's a girl, it doesn't necessarily mean that she cannot defend herself. And you only have to train them to defend themselves by targeting certain areas. And when they do, to be very decisive when they do. Not training her to be violent, but to self-defend herself. The same for your sons, the same for your daughters. I always say, never start it, but be sure to finish it. Be sure to finish it. And you only need to do it one time, in a certain space, in a certain place, okay? So she's beginning to feel very confident about herself. She's sort of poised and waiting for when someone touches her, because you can talk all you want, and that's great. But you touch my child? Oh, no. She's going to tidy you up. She's quite able to do something about it. And at that point, we will go back to the police report again. So you're building a case. At this rate, the school just stood up and started to deal with it. The boy's been in suspension and he came back and he doesn't speak to my daughter again. This is actually a current situation that I am dealing with. So as of now, when she walks through the door, I still ask her, how was it? What did he say? How did you feel? I don't miss a beat. I make sure that she feels stood up for. Her smile is back. She's no longer jotting down those crazy things in her diary. And she's happy. And guess what? I have also taught my children that we all have different kinds of weapons. But here are some good things you can have in your arsenal. Be smart. Be kind. Success is the best form of revenge. This week, she's going into assembly and she'll be awarded with a gold medal for her attitude to study, to work. So in some way I win because she wasn't broken down. Her heart wasn't tampered with. Her emotions weren't, dampened. She's still doing really well. And while those boys sit in class, she gets to march up there when they call her name and receive a gold medal for what she is, who she is, how she is, and what she does in class. So be encouraged. Those are some things you need to pay attention to. One thing I do want to say, and don't want to forget, is that the other boy who was moved to another class then began to target a friend of my daughter's. There's no link. I'm not saying now I'm, chasing after this kid, but the parent isn't actually aware of how severe it is. And when I picked them both up, because it's a friend of my daughter's, but they're in separate forms, she was saying they kick her around, they call her all sorts of things, they body shame. And so you have to understand that the school, the reason why I went about it this way, I don't trust the school. I don't trust the school one bit. The reason why I went about it this way is you have to understand that the school has your child's interest at heart, but also the interest of the other lad, because they don't want his whole future to be destroyed and have him tossed out and become a delinquent or just somebody who now becomes even more problematic. So they have an interest in that child's they have an interest in that child's life as well. They're trying to do what they can to make it all better. And that's not my business. My business is my daughter. Okay? So you have to fight as if you're fighting for yourself. The school is not like an attorney that's solely defending you. No, they're working both ways. So you have to fight for your child. For instance, on one occasion in one of the letters where I said he used a pencil to hit my child, which my child said it hurt, he wrote back and said they've taken note of the fact. They're bringing in the child's parents regarding and they are aware of the pencil hit / tap. So they kind of try to play it down because they do care about the other person as well. And the parents would come in and shed a tear and be like, oh my God, I can't believe my child's behaving this way. And they feel sorry for that parent. Oh, no. You go all out and you dig right in and you make sure they back off your child. That's all you need. You need someone to stand up and make sure nothing happens to your child. Your children need to come into the world confident, understand you stood up for them, understand you love them, understand that you were there when it was hard, and they also will know how to play out their own lives, how to stand up for themselves and how to defend their own. And this is what you do when you deal with a bully. You respond with strength. I feel that this is a really long video as it is already, but I had every intention of telling you what my experience was growing up with regards to bullying. It was horrible. It was horrific. And so I'm very sensitive when I talk about this topic. But yeah, I was put into a boarding school. Having grown up here, I was born here in London and then went back to Nigeria when I was about 4, 5, I think. I didn't realize that I had an accent. I was a black child and I didn't realize I had an accent. So when we got to Africa, the first thing my parents did was, find ways to put us all in boarding school. And you are in a situation where children discipline children, which is horrific. It's absolutely horrific. And there was an instance where a child in my dorm was killed. She was asked to fetch water and to go get water from the well for her school mother. So the senior person who is responsible for you, as it were, but they use you as a slave, which effectively that's what it is. So the lady had come back from the senior girl had come back from gallivanting in the night with some boys from the boys' dormitory, came back to the dorm and realized that her water was stolen. Her bathing water, you fetch water. We don't have running taps. This is Africa. It's rural in the school that we were in. Okay. And so she taps this girl and says, get off the bed. She was on the bunk bed and she gets up and says, go fetch me some water. I don't care what time of the night it is. So with a sleepy eye, she went out with a lamp, got to the well and pulled out some water. And when she had finished, she wanted to switch off the lamp and she backed up towards the well and fell in, smacking her head all the way down. So, stupid things like this happen, hurtful things like this happen. In my case, I had an accent. And when I would speak, they thought I was being smart. Like, who do you think you are? Why are you talking like that? And so on. And I didn't even understand what the problem was. It was more a case of, this is my voice. I don't even know what they were talking about. My voice sounded one way, their voices sounded another, and so did someone else's. What was special about me? I had no idea. They kept on targeting me. And when my parents would visit once every 2 months, they would bring some food and some money. I would eat at the car, but as soon as I would get back to the hostel, they would take everything away from me. So I would go days and days and days hungry. The only times I would eat would be at the school dinner with the principal, where everyone had to sit in this big hall and eat. I think someone has started cutting the grass in this lovely park. This video will come to an end. But yeah, I would starve. Ultimately, In order to punish me on occasion, they sent me to the stream to fetch wet buckets of sand. And, like I think 2 or 3 buckets, and the trip to the stream was like a mile away. And so you'd fill up wet sand in a metal bucket, and to put it on your neck, it was sort of like go right in. And I was a young person, about 9 or so. No, 10. I was about 10. It was horrible. I started to feel pains in the back of my neck. This is bad stuff, okay? There's no teacher around to caution you. This is on a weekend. Students are left to their own devices. It's a boarding school. Nobody cared. This is obviously where I come from. I don't know how it works in the UK, but I've heard people in the UK also complain that boarding school is just where you throw your children when you don't care, okay? But yeah, it went on. And when I got back to the hostel with the bucket of sand, they would wash their faces and put yucky water on the floor, spit on it, and then ask you to lie on the floor face down in it. I had to do that. And I started becoming insubordinate. Like I couldn't take it anymore, just for the sheer fact that I felt like I was being killed. I was in pain. Next thing was take a bucket of water, fill it up over there, and get an empty bucket, set it over there, and use a spoon, take the water from that bucket all the way to the next bucket, and put it in there until you filled up that bucket with water with a teaspoon. For every drop of water that falls from the teaspoon, they start beating you up. It was horrific. They kept beating me up, obviously, because water kept, dripping, and I couldn't control the situation. My body was shaking from the shock of the pain I was going through. I lost it. I grabbed a metal bucket and I swung it around. I lost control. I started hitting them over the heads. I became vicious. They started screaming. Some people got hurt, and then I ran for the school gates and I escaped. And I walked through a forest, because where we were was in the Plateau, in a state called Jos. I ran through the forest for maybe an hour before I came to the main highway. By then it was really dark for a young person, 10, in a different state. And I hitchhiked again, another dangerous chapter, and a car slowed down and picked me up and took me to Bauchi, which is another state. I got there in the middle of the night. They didn't ask me for any money. And then from there, I took a bike to our house, started banging on the gate, and I told the bike to wait. My parents would pay. And my parents came out and they were in shock. Who's banging on the gate in the middle of the night? The dogs were barking. The gate man was like, what's going on? And I was crying, and they paid him off, the guy, and I came into the house and they didn't send me back. That's how a 10-year-old has to defend themselves and say, I don't want to be in a boarding school. Not everyone's going to be able to deal with the situation I dealt with in the manner that I did. And poor girl, her name was Jamila, she died when she was, fell down the well because of being maltreated, and so on and so forth. I actually have a mark in the center of my head. I don't know if you can see. There is this line right there. It's actually the shape of my skull. The first time I went to boarding school, I'm not crying, my nose is a bit stuffy and I'm a bit allergic to the grass that's been cut out here. But the first time I went to boarding school, I had never been on a bunk bed. And the bunk beds in boarding school don't have protectors, guardrails on the side. So I went to bed as usual, and all I remember is hitting the concrete floor with my forehead. I fell from the bed, turned and smacked the floor. I cried so badly, and I felt such pain in my forehead and confusion. I'm in a boarding school with senior students. It was like, shut up, get back to bed, blah, blah, blah. Like I was in a prison or something. And I cried and sobbed and went back on my bed and slept. And I noticed that on my forehead. Now, if you don't see your child for months at a time, how are you even going to know? And sometimes we forget you're young and you don't even talk about this stuff. And especially when you also have parents who deal with you with corporal punishment, you don't really talk about stuff. You just take it in. But now I have my children. I deal with it totally differently, and I have been very successful in handling their bully situations, complicated situations at school, and so on. I mean, I could go on. There was even a case of a teacher who harassed my child, and I took that teacher to task. And I did the same system of writing to the heads, and that teacher was removed from teaching primary altogether. So you have to fight for your child, stand up for them, do what you can, and they'll always remember that. Thank you so very much for watching, coming with me on my walk, even though the grass cutting has stopped. But that's something I've got off my chest now, and I've shared with you what I've been dealing with. Let me know in the comments down below what your experiences are with, your child being bullied. If you are someone who's being bullied, let me know in the comments down below. I can tell you what you can't do, advise you in any way that I can. And I also need advice if there's anything else I can do, should any other situations where they're ugly heads, and I'll add it to my arsenal. And like I said, go to war. And for you parents out there who don't care about the fact that your child goes to school and is a menace, I appeal to you to make sure you pay attention, because at the end of the day, the tables will be turned on your own child, either with a criminal record or someone really going for them in a way you least expected. Pay attention to your child. Let's try, even though it seems all impossible, but let's try and make the world a better place. Thanks for watching. I'll see you again soon in the next video, which I hope won't be months and months away. But thanks again, and I'll see you again soon. Take care. Bye.